Root of the Science podcast with your girl, Anne with an E. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Root of the Science podcast with your girl, Anne with an E. If you are new here, welcome. It's always such a great pleasure to have new listeners. Remember that you can follow the podcast on the following social media platforms: on Twitter, on Instagram at the Root of the Science pod, or on Facebook at the Root of the Science podcast. Remember that you can also subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify so that you're always aware when a new podcast comes in and you always obviously get the latest content. And also you can follow on wherever else you listen to your podcast, even if it's on the website, the podcast website. Now, let's get into today's episode. My guest today is Nyasha Manyika from Zimbabwe and currently based in South Africa. Nyasha is a qualified commercial pilot who also serves as a registrar at 43 Air School, a leading aviation college in Port Alfred, South Africa. Her passion for sustainable development within the aviation industry saw her becoming the co-founder of African Leaders in Aviation, also known as ALA, a registered NPO which serves and supports the African aviation industries and careers in STEM by empowering women and raising honorable leaders. Nyasha is also a member of Women in Aviation International and the Keep Flying International Scholarship. As a registrar, Nyasha's role involves working with 250 to 300 student pilots at a time from over 40 different countries globally. This has exposed her to a diverse range of cultures which she appreciates as an opportunity to learn and grow. Her commitment and contribution to the aviation industry in South Africa has widely been recognized, and in 2021, she was selected as one of Africa's 100 Brightest Young Minds, which identifies, connects, and mobilizes Africa's most innovative and responsible young people. Now, with this being said, we get to hear about her, all of this, the root of the science, and of course, so much more. Let's go. Nyasha, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Anne, for having me. How are you today?
I am fantastic. I'm great. And I'm so excited to have you on. You know, I've been telling you this, but I want everybody else to know how excited I am to have you on. So just before we get everything started, can you please introduce yourself? And then maybe people can understand my excitement a little bit. Just briefly who you are and what you do.
Okay. Thank you so much, Anne, for having me on this show. It's incredible what you're doing. I'm really happy about it, getting the word out there to others. Nyasha Manyika is a 33-year-old lady from Zimbabwe. I'm a commercial pilot license holder. I'm also currently working on my certified flight instruction rating. I'm also a wife, a mother, and also co-founder for African Leaders in Aviation.
Oh, fantastic. Guys, can you just hear all of this? This is mind-blowing. I'm really excited to just hear about you and the journey, because you're my first ever person I've ever spoken to in the aviation industry. So before I get a hold of myself, carried away, I think it's important for us to sort of set the scene, right? You mentioned that apart from what you do, being a commercial pilot and being a co-founder, you are a mom and you're a wife. So we want to get to know you. Yeah, who's Nyasha away from all of these roles that you are? And yeah, what makes you tick? I think that will be really interesting.
Yes, as I said, I'm a wife. My husband's actually a pilot as well. So I don't think we'll run away from aviation. Yes, he's actually an ex-military pilot. He was a flight instructor in the Air Force. And yeah, I think that's another thing that just helped this click.
Yeah,
because
I can see that.
Hit both of us. But yes, we got married traditionally in 2017, December, in Zimbabwe. And in 2019, we welcomed our baby girl. Yeah, she's 2 now. Oh. And you're a grace.
Fantastic. I love kids at that age. Like, I think everybody says they're terrible twos. I know they're like everywhere doing everything, but I think that's when, the personality comes out. And I love toddlers. Like, that is that is my hill. But I mean, I love toddlers, and then I give it back to the parents and I'll be like, okay, this is fun.
Time's up for me now.
Back to you. Oh, okay, so that's great. Okay, I love how you and your husband are both in this field. So that's how you met, and this grew, this love of yours grew. Is that my assumption?
We actually met through a mutual friend who's also a pilot. He introduced us to each other. Then, it was, I guess, with the aviation bug, with the stories and supporting each other. Because in a field like aviation, you need to have someone who supports you. I'm sure it's with you guys in your industry, with your researches and all. You need to have someone who's supportive, who understands. And being a female, I'm sure you'll get there. You don't want someone who's intimidated, but who actually supports you. So I think, and also supporting his dream, understanding what the field is about. I think that helped us as well to just be each other's pillars and just be each other's best friend, I guess.
Oh, no, that's fantastic. We love like that. Just a heads up to everybody that you might be hearing the planes in the background as well. So, we are we are immersing ourselves in this aviation thing today, which is fantastic. So, okay, we kind of get the theme that this is who you are, being a founder and whatnot. This field sort of overlaps into your other parts of your life. But in the very beginning, did you always know, how does a young girl from Zimbabwe end up being, a certified commercial pilot? Can you take us from the beginning? How did that actually start?
I actually didn't think I would actually be a pilot. I never even knew that the field existed like everybody else. I'm a first generation pilot in my family. I actually thought I was going to take up commercials, maybe study business administration or something along those lines. I studied commercials in high school in Zimbabwe for my A-levels. It was actually during the school holidays, as I was waiting for my A-level results, a family friend opened a flight school and he told my parents about it. And, so since I was just home, he actually just offered them, can she just come and try this out? And, I actually went and tried it out. As they call it, an aviation bug that can actually just bite you. And once it does, you are taken. So, I visited the school. I had my first flight and that was it. I just got back and I was like, I want to be a pilot. And after that, I started a bit of my flight training in Zimbabwe at Charles Prince Airport in Harare. And this was back in 2007. And that's when the Zimbabwean economy was kind of not going so well. Yes. There were fuel shortages and lots of disruptions. I've always been a bit curious about what's out there. So back then, we didn't have like a computer at home or anything. So I used to go to the internet cafe and I would just research about what's happening out there. So now, since I was now in the aviation field and I didn't have anyone to ask about anything, I just started going to the internet cafe and I would research about it and all. Then I realized that there were other flight schools all over the world.
Wow.
Whilst I was in the internet cafe, I actually met a guy who was an agent for a flight school in South Africa.
Right.
Then he asked me, I know, right?
Yeah.
Then he asked me, he's like, oh, you're researching about planes and all. And I told him, I'm actually going to school at Charles Prince, but you know what's happening? Sometimes we can't fly because there's no fuel and all this and that. Then he told me about the school, which was in Bloemfontein. And he said he could actually help us, apply and all. Oh my gosh, I was so excited. I'm like, what? I can actually do this outside of Zim and continue and all. Anyway, to cut this, it's a very long story. This guy ended up helping us with a bunch of friends and all. And we actually moved to South Africa and we started our flight training in Bloemfontein. And yeah, one thing that no one warns you is aviation is very expensive.
Okay.
So the little savings that we had as a family, they actually ran dry at the initial parts of the training. I had to actually take up odd jobs. And through my curiosity and the internet, I started researching and all. I started finding out about other organizations that are out there, like Women in Aviation International, which is in the USA. At that time, there was also what's known as SAWIA, Southern African Women in Aviation. I found out that they had scholarships to help girls who were interested in aviation but like couldn't afford to actually take it up. And I also just started researching about other women who were in the field. So through this, I started meeting people. I started learning that I could volunteer because I had actually a 2-year break where I had no funds to help me. But during that time, I actually started volunteering. I became a Women in Aviation International member. I got a scholarship to go to the US to attend a conference there, a Women in Aviation International conference. There were thousands of women who were in aviation, pilots, mechanics, quality officers for Boeing, Airbus. The things we see on TV. I got to see that, Oh my gosh, the passion just continued. It just grew. I came back after the conference. I started volunteering. We were actually going to schools, talking about aviation, telling young girls that they could take it up, being that resource to give people information, those girls who were me at some stage who didn't know anything about this, or maybe some who knew, but they didn't know how to pay for it. Starting to connect the dots. You can be a pilot, telling other girls that they can. Yes. And during that time, one of the ladies that I had met during the conference in the US, she actually invited me back to the US. And I was in the US for about 3 years, which was also just mind-blowing. And yeah, then I came back. Then I got my commercial license. So it was just like, I'm a Christian. I believe God, it took me about 8 years to get my licenses, which normally takes 2 to 3 years. But it took me 8 years because I didn't have finances and all. But during that meandering, it became a full circle. I didn't have funds. I started learning about all these organizations. I started volunteering in rural areas. I started seeing the gap of inequality that exists between those who have, those who don't have. Even the digital separation that's there, people who don't have the internet at all. They can never research like I used to in the internet cafe. Having a chance to live in the US for 3 years, seeing what's there and coming back to Africa, it just became a full circle. So for me, I take it as that delay was actually for me to grow and learn and see and birth something, which is where Allah, African Leaders in Aviation, comes from.
Yeah, wow, what a story. And I love how it brings us to the genesis of the African leaders in aviation. And you mentioned that this journey of yours, the meandering, and I think it also allowed you to grow a network. That was also another important thing that you can hear, that you're able to meet all of these amazing women, and just you explaining that gave me goosebumps. So I just have some follow-up questions before we start speaking about Allah. You said for you, when you were starting, in the very beginning, when you were still in high school after your A-levels, for somebody who's interested, do you have to study specific subjects to get into aviation, or like, how does one actually get into it? Are there some subjects that they need to get into, or can you just do whatever subjects and then you'll find yourself in these different flight schools?
Okay, there are actually like two ways to do this. You could join the Air Force. My husband, he was in the Air Force. For that, you'd need to pass your physics. You need to have good grades for your physical science, your mathematics. That needs to be really, really up there. You have to be good. You have to be sharp. And you'd also go through some psychometric tests where they evaluate you. Are you actually a right fit for this? Are you a right candidate? Your mathematical skills, your quickness, mental comprehension. How do you handle stress? Because you're going to be flying 300 people, and let's say the engine stops. What's going to happen? Are you going to call mommy or what? Are you going to think quick? Now the engine stopped. What am I going to do? I'm going to pull out my quick reference handbook. I'm going to do this as I've been taught, So they need to make sure you're the right fit. Okay. So the Air Force is the first option, which would actually be very, very good. And as well, the Air Force would cover your training. The other option would be joining a flight school. With the flight school, you'd first do your private pilot license, which would allow you to fly friends and family for free. You'd take, there's about 8 subjects which you do. It's the theory aspect. You learn about the meteorology. You need to be able to decode the weather. Oh, the weather is not going to be great. I'm not going to take this airplane through a hurricane or a tsunami or, the bad weather that happens. You need to learn that, how to decode. There's also flight planning. You need to be able to pre-flight the airplane. Do I have enough fuel for my flight? Oh, if I have to maybe hold a little bit in the air because I can't land because somebody's still on the ground, do I have enough fuel? So there's fuel planning, which you'd also need to learn. There's also what's known as aviation law. You're learning about the rules of the air. Oh, I want to overtake another aircraft. How do I do this? What are the laws of the air? If I'm flying an aircraft which is about 5,700 kilograms, what laws govern me? If I'm flying the big airplane, what laws govern me? What should I and shouldn't I do? And you learn about that. You also learn about the instruments in the aircraft, navigational aids that help you with the flying. So there's that theory aspect. Then there's the fun part, which is the flying. So, yes. So for the flying, you'd fly about 45 hours. Within 45 to 60 hours, people normally get their private pilot license. You can't get paid at this stage, but you can fly family and friends for free and all. Then you build up. Then later you do your commercial, which is your commercial pilot license. You'll also take up the same subjects that you did at private pilot, but now they're a bit more in detail. And also add on some flying till you get to about 200 hours. And then you qualify as a commercial pilot license holder. At that point, you could even learn how to fly an aircraft with 2 engines as well, depending where you're going with your career afterwards. Yes. So this can be done at a flight school.
Okay, fantastic. These are the things that, most of us don't even know. We just see planes flying, we just catch a plane. So it's really important that you have given us this sort of overview of how you can actually get started. And then this will then bring me back to then, to where you were talking to us about the African leaders in aviation. You said that while you were busy learning and gaining your hours, you saw these things about how there was that digital divide and how it's expensive for people who are not, let's say African students, or people who are not financially, have the means to do that. So could you tell us then, were these some of the reasons? If not, what was the reason for you to start and co-found the African Leaders in Aviation, before we get into what exactly you do?
Okay. Yes, it was that digital divide and the inequalities that existed. When you're in flight school, you'd see the people who are actually there. They're from elite families, everything's in order and all. And those are opportunities that are not availed, to someone in an isolated rural area. They don't even know that this exists. They may have the potential to also be a part of this, but they don't know this. So it was things like that. And also just being a first generation pilot, you don't have role models. There's no one who who's a pilot. So how can you think of it? How you can't comprehend it because you've never seen anyone. And also being a first generation pilot, you can actually struggle during the course because maybe you don't even have a car in your house at your home. So you don't have that muscle memory. It's not your fault, but you don't have those skills. So now when you do go to flight school, there's that muscle memory initiative that's needed. But because your background didn't accommodate that as you were growing, you actually fall behind. You can learn and catch it, but you're different from someone whose grandfather had a small airplane and the person's dad is a pilot.
Yes, of course.
So it's things like that. And also the statistics, 5% of the world's airline pilots are women. 5%. 23% are in STEM. So it's statistics like that. And when you bring this to Africa, it's like 20% of 50% of Africa is below the age of 20. So it's so when you look at the future and you look at these numbers, like this has to change.
Definitely. I firmly agree with you. And what you said about visible role models, it's like you said, it's very hard for you to imagine, let alone there's nobody in your family who even, you don't even hear planes wherever you are, number one. You've never even dreamt of being on a plane. So where are you going to start dreaming to want to be a pilot? Where somebody who's always been in planes, who always sees planes and can get curious, like, oh, one day I want to be a pilot. So it's very important that, these initiatives exist to show people who've never had that opportunity, or to sort of to show them that these things are possible. So can you further explain to us what exactly the nonprofit does and some of the activities that you do to sort of combat these inequalities that actually exist in the world of aviation?
Okay, so African Leaders in Aviation is actually like there to raise, empower, inspire AviSTEM, future AviSTEM leaders. That's aviation people by giving them knowledge, empowering them, showing them where the scholarships are and all. But we also our projects also include that honorable leaders aspect where we don't just want to tell you to become a pilot, become an engineer, join the STEM field and all. We also want you to have the right attitude. We want you to be an honorable leader. We want you to be that role model who help the next generation, who if you enter an interview room, you're going to be the best, you're going to shine. You've got the right attitude. So we actually run mentorship programs. Like now in November, our other mentorship program is actually starting. It's an exchange program with a team in the USA. It's one session per month, whereby students aged 12 to 17, they go through different careers in aviation and STEM. They get to know, what does a drone pilot do? What careers are there for a drone pilot? They get to see other African role models who are in the drone field. They get to talk to those children and put a picture to what those children see, because most of the textbooks may not show someone who looks like them. So now they get to see someone who looks like them. And yeah, so we actually run that mentorship program. On our Facebook and Instagram pages, we're always posting scholarship adverts for the aviation and STEM field. Anytime we see those, we're posting them. So we encourage people to just pass by and actually see what's there that can help them. We're also putting together AviSTEM camps, which will run for 4 days, like during the school holidays. During that AviSTEM camp would expose the students to manned aviation, which is the flying with the pilot inside. We're also looking at unmanned, which is drone technology and all. Then we'll also incorporate other STEM careers as well. Then we also invite other industry professionals to exhibit what they're about. And this is also for high school learners who are in isolated rural communities, the ones that cannot join the online mentorship program. They don't have computers, they don't have internet, so we go to them.
Wow. Oh, what brilliant.
You know, and it's a 4-year camp. Like it starts from when a learner is in grade 9, so that grade 9 they'll see us. Grade 10 we'll add on. Grade 11 we add on. Grade 12 we just see them briefly, but they're at that stage where, having gone through the program, they're able to actually say, "Oh, I want to be a scientist." Yes. They've learned from these past 3 years. They've been learning about that. They know, if I want this, I can apply to Wits University. Oh, I need to apply by so and so. Oh, I need a scholarship, so I need to actually get these grades. So that's what that program focuses on. We've also put together a professional network. In this professional network, it's all about networking for women and men who are in the AviSTEM field, so they can actually have a family to do life with. With the stats that we spoke about, there are few women who are in these fields. So what better thing than having a group of others in the field who you can walk the journey with, discuss the hardships with. You have a bad day, you've got exams coming up. There could be someone in the network who's walked that journey. At least that person can be your source of information, inspiration, and we raise each other up, as Africans. So yeah, that's what ALA is busy with.
Wow, I'm so blown away by everything what you're doing. It's so, so important. So just to get some major key points, this if somebody is interested, how do they get hold? Do they have to send you a message, or who is it open to? I know you said it's online, which is great for the people who can get online. How does somebody apply to be part of this very important program if they are interested or know somebody who can benefit from this?
The current one is actually running till April, so they can actually apply to join the next one. They can just send an email to hello@africanleadersinaviation.org.
Okay. And I'll also put this in the episode link for people who are interested, and also the website as well for people to check out more information.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because we're always posting these programs, and also it's good to always just check out what's happening, when's the next opening, and you can actually apply.
No, this is love. I love the work. This is why I said that I was really excited to have you on, because I wish one day, once upon a time, I had all of this stuff, because I never dreamed of it. You also spoke about how in the very beginning we spoke about the statistics, and we spoke about being a woman, particularly in aviation, and how you say there's only about 5% of women who are actual pilots. So then this brings up a very obvious question, right? Even for me, when we got together, it's not every day that I hear, let alone speak to a female pilot. This is why it's just bugged me in my mind, and I'm so excited. So with this context, though, as much as it's great in where you are now and how much you've achieved, there are some obvious challenges that you face being a minority in the field. And worse, being, I can imagine being a Black female African can also have even more challenges. So can you just explain to us how you sort of navigated all of these challenges, and if you don't mind sharing some of them?
Okay. In this field, like I said, at first I was actually just walking blind, at first, because I had no one. Yes, the family friend opened the school, but that's as much as info as he could give us, So I actually just had to navigate my way through, and yeah, that was really hard. But the internet was actually just a good source of finding out other people who are out there who are doing the things and looking for them and actually walking the journey with them. But there's some times when maybe they're not there, you're at school, you may be the only girl in the class. And yeah, with that, you actually just have to work twice as hard. Like I said, I had a commercial background. I didn't study physics at school. My only advantage was geography, which helped me with subjects like meteorology. Yes. But for physics, I actually really struggled studying to understand the Newton's laws and all that. Then you've got subjects like aircraft technical. I'd never worked on a car, so I didn't know that the engine parts, they've this, that. But for boys, they've been working on cars, from probably when they were very young. So those technical subjects can be very easy for them, whereas for us, we have to work twice as hard to get there to the level that they're at. But once you get there, it's actually easy. You it's just the catching up, which may be hard at first if you didn't have the exposure behind. And so being a woman, you have to be prepared to work twice as hard. You have to be able to, because as you work twice as hard and you get to the level where they're at, you earn the respect. Because now you're able to answer those technical questions at the level at which they're answering, and it's sometimes at even a higher level. You're able to fly that airplane with good precision, accuracy, and it's just perfect. That now you're showing I'm the boss as well, So it's things like that you need to put in the work twice as hard. You have to prove as well that you're not timid, because it's like, sometimes you may speak softly, speak gently and all, and you have to be in command and actually tell a person, no, don't do that. So sometimes they mistake that softness and all for timidity. So now you have to be able to prove that you're not timid, you know what you're doing. And when you say something, you have to say it with authority. So yeah, it's things like that. But it's you get a hang of it. Then you find some people who just want to put you like they're like, maybe just put her under pressure or just discourage her and all that. You have to keep going back to the board and telling yourself why you are there. I love flying. I am going to fly. Doesn't matter that I'm minority. I can fly. I will fly. So you have to be telling yourself that, what, I can do it. And when you are wrong, research, why was I wrong? What did I do wrong? And, sort it out. And always surround yourself with people who are for you, who support you, who are your cheerleaders. Especially when you're in a field like this, it's so easy to just go down and get depressed and all. But like if you've got a support team that believes in you, that reassures you, and if you've got mentors as well, like in my case, I've got, because I'm also part of what's known as the Keep Flying Scholarship Committee. It's a scholarship that was put together by female airline pilots who are based in America. I met them whilst I was in the States and all, and we've stayed in touch, and they're my mentors now. So even now, because I'm also working on my flight instructors rating, I've got some days where maybe I have a bad day, or I feel like I'm not being taken seriously, or it's, maybe because I can see that maybe the gents are doing it better or faster and all. I can go back to those ladies. And now these ladies have over 30 years in the industry, and they too are also in that 5%. So they have also gone through all this in the US with their male counterparts. So they're able to, help me, tell me, Nyasha, take a deep breath. What did the instructor say? What are you doing wrong? Okay, fine. Now how bad do you want this? And I'm like, I really, really want it. They're like, okay, fine. Now you're going to have to prove that you really want it. Pick yourself up, study, and in the aircraft, believe in yourself. You can do it. So it's small things like that that just keep on, taking me up, and stages I'm passing, I'm going through, and I keep going. So yeah, I think, so being female in an isolated field and all, just surround yourself with the right people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wanted to echo those sentiments of your last sentence. So that seems like to be the key theme. And I think it also goes to show why it's also very important to have a network, and also even the work that you are doing with the organization, or just you being you as well. I mean, because I'm sure you are that mentor to somebody else, or even if it's not actively, just by somebody listening even to this message, and they're like, wow, she's gone through all of this and she's managing, and she's a whole commercial pilot, and now she's aspiring to be a flight instructor. So just those parts, just you also blazing that trail, creating those footprints, it makes it easier for somebody to sort of not walk in the dark. So as much as you feel like sometimes it's overwhelming, but just you doing what you're doing is like a whole lot to somebody else. So I think you should give yourself credit to that part, and just, I'm inspired just by your whole journey. Maybe in my next life, I'll come back and be a female pilot. But it's been, oh man, time flies while we're having fun. You've already sort of given us some sort of like really good advice, for somebody who aspires to get into this field, but just sort of something short for closing. This can be a life advice for anyone who aspires to get into the field of STEM, or just in life in general, just for you to give us a little golden nuggets of some of the things that you've learned in your journey so far, because this is only the beginning.
Okay. Don't stop pursuing your dreams, just keep pushing. I once heard this short thing, and I've always just gone by it. It's picture yourself driving at night. For example, you're driving from Durban to Johannesburg. You can't see a kilometer away, can you? But you just see a few meters. But what you do, you just keep going. It's the same thing in life, just keep going. Don't stop. As you're going bit by bit, you're going to meet the right people along the way. The right opportunities are also going to present themselves. You're going to have that support unit. You're going to reach your dreams before you know it. Before you know it, you're going to be like, what? I drove all the way in the dark. So just keep going. You may not see where you're going, but don't stop. Keep going.
Oh, what a lovely way to end up the show. Yeah, keep going. Slowly but surely we will get there. And I mean, just about that whole thing of meeting the right people, your story, literally exemplified that. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you for teaching us, actually, because I learned so much, and also just inspiring us. I wish you all of the best in everything that you do, and all of the successes, and getting that instructor license, which I'm sure is going to happen anyway.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for having me, and thank you for this platform that you've put together. It's really needed. The internet, the footprint that we have. It's not just for us; it's even for the generations to come. They'll pick up all these podcasts that you're putting together, and it'll just keep inspiring. So it's a great legacy that you're building. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure. And to everybody else who's tuned in, thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the Root of the Science podcast with your girl, Anne with an E. Until next time, goodbye.